Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a Monday night slate to kick off the week. We got 6 games tonight for you guys. In this one, we're taking a look at the Bucks. They are in New York at the Garden, taking on those fiery hot Knicks. Both teams playing pretty well as of very recently. We'll take a look at that one. Got another one and our player props up for you today, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where you can check out all the great written content, everything we're talking about here in the NBA up there for you guys, and our odds finder tool. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice back across all these sports books, offering you guys NBA bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into the 6-game slate and then talk about our game, Bucks and Knicks.
Yep. First one's a pick 'em here. Pelicans +1 at the Wizards. Of course, Pels without Zion. Wizards still without Beal. You said the Bucks are playing well, but I don't think that's really been the case in terms of their results. They are though still slight favorites, -1.5 right now at the Knicks with a 221 total. The Bulls, who have beaten the Celtics twice this season, are +8.5 though in Boston. Highest total there, 238. Highest total on the East Coast. Still a very, very high total, though, for good reason, but tough line to pick, so we're not talking that game. Spurs are +11 at Memphis, also 238 total. The other game we break down, Lakers are +10 at Denver, and that is the highest total at 241 here tonight. And then the Magic +6 at Kings. Yeah, I mean, the Bucks, we're really struggling, pulled out a gritty win over Toronto, and then, one of the most puzzling results of the season, I guess, or just kind of unexpectedly crazy that they were 10-point favorites at home against Charlotte and wind up losing by about 30. I mean, it was like Clippers, they took a page out of the Clippers book, right, and just yanked the starters in the first half, basically. We're like, okay, we don't have it tonight. On to the next one. And they do have 2 full days off before said next one against the Knicks, a team they've now beaten 4 times in a row, beat twice this year in some pretty, bruising, low-scoring games, as you might expect for these teams. The first one did go over. Second one got to 212. And so we have a pretty low total here of 221. And, of course, the Bucks are still a bad offensive team on the road, which is why, if this was in Milwaukee, total would probably be 231, I think we could say. It would be about 10-point difference. You're starting to see some signs of life, though, from the Bucks on the road in terms of opening it up more. I mean, they did have a 118 offensive rating when they went to New York last. They had a 124 rating in a win at New Orleans, and then pretty good numbers at Boston, at Cleveland, even at Brooklyn, which has been, one of the better defenses in the league right now. And the pace has gone up a little bit. And I think most importantly here, their defense has been worse on the road as well. 118 defensive rating in their last 7. And part of that's skewed by facing Toronto, which just literally couldn't score. By the way, New York's last game against Toronto did manage to go over. They had a 118 defensive rating against maybe the worst half-court offense in the league. New York has now gone over an 8 of 10, kind of had their lines set under the expectation that how they want to win is holding teams below 105, right? We've talked about how they're undefeated in that situation. In basically any game that goes below 220, they look like they're going to win. And they were able to shut down Houston and Phoenix and go under. But other than that, I mean, they did not shut down the Spurs. They go to 231 with the Spurs. And I mean, the Bucks are obviously pretty impossible to shut down when Giannis has it going. I mean, he can be a one-man band and just do his thing, and that's going to kind of drive scoring in these games. And so when I went and looked back at their last few games with 2+ days off, saw what happened. Over in 3 of their last 4, games averaging 238. Giannis averaging 41 points per game and shooting about 60% from the floor. And not only does he have 2 days off, he basically didn't play against Charlotte. He played 22 minutes. Right. He was probable with the knee issue, but he's had to manage that ridiculous workload that he's been handling. And so they gave him some early rest. And so now he comes into this one. And I also like the fact that both these teams have something to prove here. I mean, the Bucks, just whoever they're playing, they got to get on track. They got to prove that they can win. And the Knicks, just to like get off this big brother scenario where they just can't seem to beat the Bucks, and that even though both teams have the same similar strengths, good defending paint points, good limiting twos. I should say though the Bucks are dead last limiting twos on the road. So I think Jalen, Julius Randle, who you're taking an under in player props, I'll just throw a little sneak peek out there. I am not on board with that. I think Julius is going to have a good game. I think Giannis is, of course, going to have a huge game, and that's going to drive enough points to get over 220.
You think Julius is going to be the one to have the huge game for the Knicks? I mean,
easy 30 right now.
I mean, dude has been killing it last 10 with like 30 points a game, 12 and a half boards a game. I was going to bring up how good he's been playing in my player props and lead it off with that, and then tell you guys sneaky segue to my under, because it's just such a bad matchup for him right now. That's really all that I see. Like, I'm kind of buying. Okay, there's two trains of thought here. Buy into what's happened in this series, the last 4 matchups that have just been completely owned by the Bucks in a very specific way, right? Like they're winning by just playing good defense all over the floor. If the Knicks aren't able to hit threes, at least in the games that they've been playing in these matchups, the Knicks haven't been as good from 3. It's really just closed everything else up for them. And that was also, to be fair, at a time, at least back in October, when the Knicks were still, sort of playing with that last year's style of play, trying to put up a lot of threes, not very good spacing between RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, and so that was a big reason for everything being clogged up, and sort of Milwaukee being able to stifle what New York's offensive game plan was in the way that they were trying to score. Move forward to today, and there is no RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, as we've been speaking about when we called them beating the Raptors, which they did a few days ago on the road. That was all, a result of incredible spacing on offense between those two guys. It is a little bit of your turn, my turn, but they're still running sets for them to get them in their spots wide open. So, like, great, your turn, my turn with Julius Randle on the wing, 1-on-1 from 17 feet away, or Jalen Brunson from literally anywhere on the floor because he's so quick and efficient in all those spots. Like, yeah, you're going to be fine with that. So that would be the other train of thought here, is this isn't the same matchup without RJ Barrett in there, and without, Tibbs just sort of forcing forcing the Knicks to really run with older players, Evan Fournier and Derrick Rose being the two that get beat up on in these conversations the most. And Fournier's been getting back out there in a bench role in serviceable minutes that make a lot more sense for someone his age and skill set. And he's been hitting open threes as a result. And Julius Randle has actually been assisting a lot of those. But I would say in this one, what I'm going to believe in here is Milwaukee's defense. I'm going to continue to buy into the fact that the reason they stop a guy like Julius Randle is that's where their defense is strongest. It's in the exact spots that Julius wants to score, because you've got Giannis and company limiting opposing power forwards, to the fifth least points, rebounds, and assists per game in all those categories. Because once you get into that 17-foot area, you've got to deal with Giannis, and then you've got to, by the time you get to the paint, you've got to deal with Brook Lopez, and obviously Bobby Portis has been in there, and then if Drew Holiday is also going to be up top on certain switches. If he's guarding Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle want to run that pick and roll, Drew Holiday on Julius Randle from 18 feet away is still a pretty good defensive matchup, as much as anybody else is going to be. And then, like I said, if Julius wants to drive into that paint, he's going to be met with 2 7-footers with, freakishly long arms. So that style of play is the reason that I feel better about Julius specifically. And I think it also just tends to, lend itself to the thought that if Julius and that sort of, his offensive efficiency and players' ability to play off of him is not going to be as high, then you just don't feel as good as the Knicks being able to score that many points. And that is where, I'm a little bit tentative with that over as well. I think this is a Milwaukee win. I think this is a good spot to sort of fade the Knicks. Everyone's actually seems to be on the Knicks, as this opened right at about +3.5, +4 in some places for the Knicks, and it's already down to +1 for them as we record this on Monday morning. So, I think there should be belief the other way. I'm happy to fade all those bets on the Knicks in this one, and I think this is a bad spot for them to try to pull out another win.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like the Bucks as well. I just started to find enough in my research to say this total's a little low. I think there are some scenarios that get you there. Mainly, some positive regression in terms of recent results between these teams. Nobody can hit a three. Nobody can get to the line very consistently. Like Giannis, only 11 free throws for him. That's a lot lower than you would expect. Again, when you look at his numbers, when he gets a little more rest this year, the Bucks being 9-4 to the over after a loss, and this just being a bounce back spot. Also, them allowing 6 more paint points on the road versus at home, and the Knicks being dead last in transition D this season in terms of efficiency on transition D. So, yeah, I mean, Bucks could pull away here. I mean, if you are kind of scared about the Knicks offense and you're with Josh on like a Julius Randle under, then you might take the Bucks team total at 110. I just think they're going to bounce back enough. They're probably going to win this game. And so I'm looking at Giannis's props, 31.5 points, still going over that. And maybe, some some player performance doubles with the Bucks getting the win, because they obviously need 30, 35 from him every time out right now with Chris Middleton still out.
Yeah, fair. And it's really going to be a matter of how is that Bucks defense going to show up on the road in this one? Like we were talking about, them being able to guard the 3 so well is big for this team. But it's also going to be a matter of that mid range and the paint. And there have been times this year where Milwaukee's been susceptible in the paint. They're still not even in the top half of the league right now on the road anyway. In their last 10, their defensive efficiency in the paint really, really bad. So that would be an opportunity for Julius. But look, I mean, he's been scoring about 14 a game in his last 4 or 5 against the Bucks for a reason. And it's maybe a night where you can expect a little bit more choppiness and grossness. Even though the Knicks have been scoring a few more points at home, they've been playing a little bit faster pace, but it actually over the course of their win streak recently and in that time frame, they've actually been a lot better on the road, as we've seen in what we talked about in that Toronto Raptors game as well. So
this game right now, Lakers plus 10, total of 241 at Denver. The one thing that gives me pause about the Lakers' momentum is that this is the 3rd game in 4 nights, and it's obviously a veteran-led team with LeBron, and that they do tend to go over when they're on short rest, and that they do tend to fail to cover on short rest. But they're losing by 7 points per game. This is a big spread, and Denver is obviously really good, just bludgeoning teams with incredible offensive efficiency lately. But for some reason, this has not been the best matchup for them. I mean, part of that being that sometimes Anthony Davis has been out there to guard Jokic. But they did lose to the Lakers in this. They've won 12 of their last 15. One of those losses is to the Lakers. AD actually tapped out of that game with an injury. So it's not all him. To me, the reason I think the Lakers are going to be able to hang is that Denver, as good as they are in some areas, they've given up like 60 paint points in 3 straight home wins. And that's even when they've handled the Clippers, handled the Celtics. They're still allowing those teams to kind of waltz into the paint and match efficiency. That's not to say that I like over at 241. I mean, the Lakers have a reputation for going over these types of things, and both these teams love to fast break and score in transition, but I lean a little bit to the under because, I mean, the Nuggets, like I said, some of the weirdness of this matchup, and the Nuggets recently at home, playing at just a 95 pace in their last 3 in those matchups I mentioned, 108 defensive rating. The Lakers, because of the rest situation, they could go cold and then just completely shut it down. And those last 4 matchups I talked about, when they were in LA, they were definitely up and down shootouts. The one earlier this season in Denver, I mean, that was when the Lakers started 0-4, couldn't really throw water in a well, if you make up a phrase there, but they had 99 points. It was a 97 defensive rating for the Nuggets, and they seemed like they had a good recipe for slowing down LeBron, who is now, of course, on a ridiculous tear. So I think we both lean towards the Lakers slowing it down a little bit, given this situation, towards the Nuggets having a bit of offensive regression because there's nowhere to go but down after they've scored 126, in their last 10, basically. Lakers as well. It's scary to take an under, but I think the idea, the game theory is if we lean towards the under, this being not a ridiculous high-scoring game, then we also lean towards the Lakers staying within 10 points all the way down the stretch here. They've won 5 straight, and they should at least be competitive, you'd think, against a team that's leading the West.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going under, the two ways that happens is this is a bit of a closer, choppier game. Both teams sort of maybe being a little bit better in their transition defense and getting back, maybe being a little bit better in the paint. I mean, the Lakers have definitely been really, really good in the paint in their last 5 or so. The other way, though, that this becomes an under is if the Nuggets do, in fact, blow out the Lakers and the Lakers just don't come along for the ride, and then we just don't really care about this one by the middle of the third quarter. But I don't see that happening either, because we've been talking about the matchup, in the last roughly like 4 times that these guys have played. And yeah, like you said, I mean, the Lakers pulled one of those out. And really when they've had AD, even in that game that they had him only for 17 minutes before he got hurt, it was, when Thomas Bryant came in, he was, doing a lot of the let's go down into the paint and play really well in, around the block. And that's what AD was doing as well. He wasn't playing that outside game in those first roughly 20 minutes and in that streak of games, right? He was playing that way. That's why Thomas Bryant has been such a serviceable substitute at like 19 and a half a game and 12 boards, right? So that's a huge plus that they didn't really have when they didn't have AD last year to the same degree. So I think that's obviously crucial when you're talking about Joker. You're not going to stop Joker. I didn't think it was possible for him to get better, but I think he's better this year than he was last year, mostly because of the fact that, playoff Joker has been like, I'll just score. You want me to score? I'll score. Like, I'll just stop passing as much and score. And he's not necessarily passing less, but he's definitely just been like, I'll keep scoring. I'm gonna make sure I'm hitting 12 to 15 field goals a game, right? Which means I'm taking, honestly, for him, it means he could be taking anywhere from 18 to 20 because he's so freaking efficient right now. And that's really what has also helped with that, the overs that they've been hitting, and the way that they've been scoring, like you said, like roughly like 122 a game or so. But at home, if you look at their last roughly 6, like we were talking about, not the paint points that they're giving up being a problem, it's also mostly just the way that that pace has been so much slower. And we've been watching a couple of those games where they lost to Minnesota after being really, really tired. But before that, in all their games that they were winning, it still came down to a lot of who's more efficient. As their defensive rating has been so good, they're happy to sort of keep that pace a little bit slower and play in the half court, because they've been basically the best half court team on both sides of the ball in December when they're at home, with that 110 defensive rating, the pace below 100, shooting at the third most efficient pace basically, and second in terms of how many assists they're getting. So everything's just this really efficient. Use as much of the clock as you want, because everything is about ball spacing and passing and cutting as well, which we've seen, obviously Bruce Brown being a huge beneficiary of that, getting a bunch of fast break points and points in the paint. So everything for them is very easy right now because of the way that they're either passing and moving in the half court, or getting those transition points with some pretty big ease as well, with guys like Bruce Brown and Jamal Murray when he's in there, Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon. That's like an incredible selection of 4 guys to lead your fast break or be running upon it as well, while Joker just kind of does his thing, trudging up the court. So I like the efficiency, but it also leads me to say, if you like this game to be a bit slower, and you do like the Lakers to probably be able to hang at least, I think they're going to be hanging in the first half. I don't know necessarily what's going to be going on in that third quarter, as the Nuggets have been such an incredible third quarter team and have used that third quarter to pull away from their opponents. In December, the best third quarter team as well in terms of net rating, for a reason, right? And that's kind of what we've seen from really good teams in the last few years as well, is who wins that third quarter and comes out and just crushes your soul. So that's the only thing that keeps me from feeling as comfortable about the Lakers score covering. But because I don't expect them to get totally blown out, and that this game should be at least a little bit more of a competitive affair, I don't think it's going to be going at a fast pace, considering the pace of both these teams has been down for sure as of late, and which has been leading to them winning. I don't think you change that recipe. So under 241.5 feels pretty good. And maybe the Lakers, I got to look at what that first half line is, but I'm basically, all these numbers have kind of led me to be like, I don't know that they're going to be able to hang in that third and fourth quarter with the Nuggets, but I do think there's something to be said for them covering in the first half.
Yeah, I think there's some circumstances that are leading to the Nuggets being a little bit overvalued as -10. The number just being a little bit uncomfortably big. I mean, you look, they won back-to-back home games here, but against Cleveland resting Donnie Mitchell, against the Clippers pulling the plug on all their starters. Before that, against the Celtics, who just don't show up in some road games right now. And then they haven't really been unbeatable in their previous 2 home games, Miami and Phoenix, and we know about Phoenix's struggles, but I mean, the Lakers are pretty much the opposite of the Clippers in terms of urgency right now, and that's why, like, I do think we trust them not to be like, okay, this is getting out of hand in the third, like, we'll just move on to the next game. It's like, no, they're selling out right now. This is our last stand. Yeah. Like, this 5-game win streak is our stand to say, like, we actually have something. They're basically auditioning to the front office to say, we can be competitive. If you want to actually trade those draft picks and give us 1 or 2 more players, like, maybe we can actually make a run here. And anytime they go out there and come out flat, or LeBron specifically being like that guy who's like, give me something here. He's not, there's no quitting him right now. And if he's not resting, he's out there giving you like 35, 8 and 8 on the routine here, 40 plus potentially. And with the Nuggets' struggles guarding the paint, we do expect enough scoring from the Lakers to keep it close. So the total is tough to bet either way because you just don't know about the pace and how much fast break opportunities are going to be, how quick Joker is going to dictate that pace. But I think either way, I don't think the Lakers completely fade away in this one. I think that they keep fighting to the end.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it is a big disadvantage right now to also be out without Lonnie Walker and Austin Reeves for them, which is part of what scares me. But they definitely hung and kept things in the last 5. They've been playing obviously well and closing things out super well as well. So it's kind of funny. Russ and LeBron, it's kind of like almost Russ's dream here that it's just like, I get to just be used as much as possible. I don't even have to start. My usage is just going to be up by the 30% range the whole time. Same with LeBron. I'm also going to be able to get just all these minutes. So it's kind of fun for them at least. And I think we can expect them to at least bring it. Like I said, I feel very strongly they'll bring it in the first half, and then we'll see what happens from there. But Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first NBA player prop for tonight.
Yeah, it fits with our game video. Bucks Knicks leaning over, definitely leaning Bucks after they have a stunning home loss to Charlotte. And I think Giannis just leads them back here. I mean, like he has all season, obviously a leading MVP candidate in a ridiculously stacked race. And you look at what he's done his last 3 games when he's had at least 2 days rest. 45 and 22 against Chicago, of course. That's still a loss, but 47 and 5 against the Lakers and 37, 7 and 6 against Portland. And so his props at 31.5 points and your minus 120 to go over. That's, obviously fair because the odds of him going under 31.5 are ridiculously low. You basically have to have another situation where somehow the Bucks pull their starters because his usage rate is absolutely insane in these last 5 before he played half a game against Charlotte. 45% usage, getting 40 points per game, getting the line 17 times, also 16.5 rebounds. You can tack those on in various ways. I think the 49.5 PRA is the best odds I found at FanDuel because the Knicks have been forcing him into a lot of assists his last 3 matchups, 35 points, 7 assists per game, along with 13 rebounds. So he gets his numbers against the Knicks, despite the fact they limit paint points against everybody else and limit free throws against everybody else. He's still getting about 12 a game. So I think you start with those minus 120 odds, the bets on him to get his, because I think that's happening either way. But then you look at the Bucks winning too, and Giannis, for them to do that, Giannis is going to have to get 35, I think. And then that's plus 310 at FanDuel. It's like 3-1 on your money for Giannis to do his thing, and that to be the reason for a Bucks win. And then, almost double that for him to get 40, which is not really that unlikely here either. It's plus 720. I wouldn't go too hard on that, but I think it's definitely worth a look. And the 35 points seems like a reasonable outcome.
Yeah, I'm staying away from it, but I mean, there's no reason to think he can't do it. I mean, everything versus the Knicks, he still gets his, even if they are, known for the defense they're known for. 17 free throw attempts a game. It seems absurd, but like when you watch it, it's like, man, I mean, he kind of is getting fouled on every play, to be honest, because there's almost no way to stop him. But I mean, yeah, 30. I do like them to win this game, and I think the 35 and a win at plus 310 sounds great. I mean, if you can double that for 5 more points at 40, doesn't seem like that bad of a play. But if you want to be safe at getting plus 310, 35 and a win for Giannis is not a bad bet by any means. So let's go to a guy who actually missed a game or so for fighting, Franz Wagner. He is back in action for Orlando and has been very good even since he returned from that brief hiatus. But 23.5 points and assists, I really like that. Minus 110 on DK. Definitely been a lot of playmaking for him, but the points are just at 20.5, a little better in terms of the odds. Minus 105 for him to get 21 points, but you add the 2 or the 3 assists, and I think you're onto something very, very much so there. In his last 3, like I said, since he's been back, 24, basically 25 a game, with about 3 boards, but 4 assists, and 37 minutes a game he's getting in that time with about a 25% usage rate. The only reason it's not even higher is because Paolo's also getting a very high usage rate out there, but they're playing a Kings team here, another road game for them, where a Kings team at home that's playing at a basically 102 pace per 100 possessions. They're allowing 9th most assists per game at home to their opponents. They allow the 5th most assists per game to power forwards. I don't know what you call Franz. There's 4 power forwards out there, so maybe they're all going to get assists tonight. But Sack also the most points per game to small forwards, and like basically it's just that area of the court that they're giving up a lot of their points to. It's either Paolo, Markelle, or Franz that's bringing up the ball right now for Orlando, and really, even when Markelle Fultz is out there, you still see a lot of playmaking from Franz Wagner as he's getting the ball in his hands with a lot of options of what to do with it. So you got to continue to feel good about him in a situation where assists are going to be prevalent tonight, I think, and a lot of points in Sacramento.
Yeah, and I was looking at the points and rebounds, but then saw that Sac gives up the fewest rebounds per game at home because they're just scoring, and the pace is so fast, and it's just goodies for both teams unless you're looking for missed shots. And with Wendell Carter really back in these last 3, like off his minutes restrictions, Franz has kind of shifted down into more of like a small forward, and that seems to have sparked more assists for him as more of that playmaker and more scoring because then they're not asking him to play as big. So looking at that Celtics Bulls game, 238 total, you'd think we're going all in on the stars, right? DeRozan, Tatum going to go off. I mean, probably, sure. But the best value I found is Pat Williams, 15.5 points, rebounds for minus 110. A guy who is very quietly just become a solid contributor, efficient scorer right now. In his last 4, he's hitting basically half his threes, 9 for 20, and 10 of 11 at the free throw line. That's good for 14 points and 5 boards per game and playing 34 minutes. And I think as long as he doesn't get in foul trouble, he's going to be playing 34 minutes tonight as one of their best options to guard either Jason or Jalen. Last time out against Boston, he had 17 points and was a +9 in 34 minutes. Previous time played 30 minutes, 7 and 5. But that was the thing early in the season, is he like literally wouldn't look at the basket. And there was obviously some talk amongst the team that like, look, if it comes to you, you gotta let it fly. Like you gotta be within our offense here. And it started to come to him a lot more because those other guys, Vooch, DeRozan, Levine, command a ton of attention. Especially Vooch, when you look at what he's done to the Celtics lately. They're going to try to be getting the ball out of his hands. And then all of a sudden, it's just like a wide open baby hook for Williams on the baseline, or a corner 3, the coveted shot in basketball. And like I said, he's hit about half of those. So I think he gets double-digit points here, and you should fall into a few more rebounds if you're playing 34 minutes.
I mean, I thought you were going to go with Vooch because as a Celtics fan, I'm sure you've been paying attention to how much he's been crushing you guys the last few times you guys have been playing him. But I think Pat Williams is another good bet because of the matchup that he is. If he sort of has any kind of nose for the basket, then he's a lot more of a problem on the offensive side of the ball. I think against these Celtics, where you're not really looking to put like Tatum or Brown on him necessarily, and as a result, I think he can probably find some pretty good holes there. And the fact that he has been at least putting the ball up a bit more, with a bunch more field goal attempts in those 14 a game in his last 4, makes you feel a lot better about his ability to do that. So. It's time for Julius Randle's under. We alluded to it in that Knicks video as we talk about them and these Bucks. And I mean, look, man, like it's scary to go under 26.5 points for him, or even under 37.5 points and rebounds for him tonight. Maybe you don't like the rebounds if you do think this is going to be I mean, Nate and I talked about this going over. I could see it being a little bit choppier if Milwaukee brings it on defense, on the road. But the under for Julius is really just the Bucks have owned this team and they've owned Julius the last 4 or 5 times they've played them. The Knicks are averaging about 103 points in their last 4 matchups versus the Bucks. Julius in his last 5 versus the Bucks, 13 points a game. I say again, 13 points a game and 9 boards with 3 assists, and that's all in 34 minutes a game. Now, that could be in part because RJ Barrett has been out there and that fit has not worked in terms of spacing, as we're now seeing Julius go crazy over his last 10 games, or last 8 even without RJ in there. 30 points a game and 12.5 boards and about 5 assists. But like I said, in those last 5 versus Milwaukee, one of which did not have RJ in it, 31% from the field, 24% from deep, with just 3.5 free throw attempts a game. That's something you really hate to see for Julius. He's got to be closer to 7 or 8. Minus 75 in those 5 games as well. By the way, not barely any foul trouble. The most fouls he's had were 4 in any of those games. Milwaukee, second best opponent 3-point percentage on the road. Julius is scoring about 38% of his points from there. The other 38% are in the paint, obviously, another place you don't necessarily want to go. I talk about the matchup problem in the game video as well, in terms of where he likes to score from and where the strength of that defense is for Milwaukee. You can expect Jrue Holiday to be hounding him anytime he's outside the 3-point line, and then as soon as he gets in it, he's got Giannis and Brook Lopez to deal with. Milwaukee remains number 1 in limiting opponent free throw attempts on the road, and number 5 in limiting power forwards on the other team to points, rebounds, and assists. All stuff we talk about, and I say specifically in that game video. Nate, tell me why you think I'm crazy for this.
You're on your own. I'm just maybe I'm a little shook because I looked up some Julius Randle unders the last couple times. I looked at how he had struggled against PJ Tucker specifically, some of those last 5 against the Bucks, and then he just goes out and produces, and he's on a tear without RJ Barrett right now. And I just think the Bucks are not bringing it on the road. I don't think they're going to be shutting him down. The props are very high for sure, but I don't think he's going under. That's either way, that's fine. More power to you if you want to bet it.
I do want to bet it. We'll see what happens there. There's just too many numbers showing me that, but I mean, it's conflicting information here in terms of what he's been doing as of late versus just what he's been doing versus the Bucks as of late. So we'll see how that matchup works out for him tonight. And that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. We are coming back to you each and every weekday this season. So until we see you next, happy betting.